Hey guys, excited to be with you on this one. I don't love doing comparison bike reviews on two bikes that are as different as the Ripley and the Ripmo. One's 120 mil travel in the rear, and then the Ripmo is 147 millimeters travel in the rear, so they are pretty different. I've had so many requests on these two bikes. Which one should I get, Jason? Which one's better for me if I like to ride like this? And that's a tough one for me to answer when you guys send me Instagram messages or comments in the section below these videos. But hey, I decided now's the time to let you know. So I've been personally riding an Ibis Ripley for over a year now, and I love the bike. It is, in most situations, the perfect bike to be on. But every once in a while, I'll go ride a trail where I feel like, man, it would be nice to have the Ripmo. The cool thing is this new Ripmo, the V2, just came out a couple weeks ago. It's the spring of 2020, and I picked this bike up from Salt Cycles, and I've had it for about 3 weeks now and just been riding the heck out of it. And it's been nice to be able to ride it back to back with my Ripley on the same day, taking it on the same trails and riding it on the same day, and then riding it back to back different days. Another thing I've been doing is swapping tires from a faster cross-country tire on both bikes to a more aggressive tire like what comes on the Ripmo. You know, that Assegai tire that comes on is a pretty aggressive tire. So having a chance now to have ridden them both with different tires on different days and really back to back, I have some thoughts that I think are worth listening to. I just want to take a quick break to let you know who today's video sponsorship is. It's Coco Joy USA. They make coconut water, super delicious, no added sugar, no preservatives, not from concentrate. It's actual coconut water bottled up at its most ripe time, so it's sweet, doesn't need any added sugar. My family's been drinking this for years, and I was excited to have them come and sponsor an actual video. You can use the link in the description down below to their website, where you'll get 15% off using the discount promotional code yumyum at checkout. Free shipping, 15% off. It's really good for after your ride, as long as it's nice and cold. It has all the right electrolytes and things in it that your body needs to recover from a long ride. It's Coco Joy USA. Check the link in the description down below one more time for 15% off your purchase, including free shipping, using discount code yumyum. I have a little bit of a bias. I love the Ripley. 120 mil travel in the back, 130 in the front, and it's the right bike for almost all speeds on almost all trails almost all the time. So that's the bias, first of all, that most people I think could get away with having the Ripley be their only bike and making small changes like tires, for example. On the days where it's like really aggressive riding, having a little bit beefier tire with more traction and more protection is pretty nice and pretty useful. But then when you go and ride the more cross-country trails or the longer days of riding on those 3 or 4 hour rides, throw a faster rolling, lower resistance tire on there, more like a cross-country tire, and it makes a big difference. The question is, can you also do that with the Ripmo? And the answer is, yeah, you probably could. Although, you could probably find better use for the Ripley most of the time. So this is what it comes down to, guys, 100%. On the days where I'm riding really gnarly trails at high speeds, the Ripmo is really nice to have. That Fox 36 up front instead of the Fox 34 that comes on the Ripley, it makes a big difference at higher speeds. It's just a little bit more stiff, more stable. The extra travel, 160 millimeter fork versus 130 millimeter fork makes a big difference once you're up over 25 and 30 miles an hour, just really going through some chundery sections of trail at higher speeds, right? I'm riding it just with the 130 mil fork, and it feels totally capable for my trails. To describe my trails to you real quick, lots of like high speed rocky stuff, some kind of 1.5 foot drops here and there, and lots of kind of 6 to 10 inch chattery sections, but high speed, nice. Not only is that Fox 36 more stable, but the whole bike just feels more stable on the Ripmo under you a lot more than the Ripley. And that's probably something that most of you think, well yeah, of course, we understand that. So what's the big difference? The big difference is, even with the same tires on it, having ridden both bikes with the same tires, which, by the way, the tire choice that I settled in on, that I thought was a good happy medium for good trail use that was still high rolling, was the Maxxis Recon 2.4 on the back, and then the Maxxis Dissector 2.4 on the front. In fact, that's what I have settled in on my personal Ripley. The Dissector up front and the Recon 2.4 Recon on the back. And I've ridden that on both bikes now, and I feel like that's, you know, it's a fast rolling but still high traction tire. And the biggest difference is on coming out of like a 180 degree turn, or maybe even a little less than that, even like a 90 degree turn. The Ripley just responds to those first 3 or 4 pedal strokes a lot faster coming out of those turns. And it has similar traction with the same tires on it, right? The other thing is it feels more playful and more snappy feeling, just a sportier feel, the Ripley does, on the more slow speed trails. The only time where I really feel like I need the Ripmo is on those really high speed, really fast descents. Even the really janky technical descents that are slower speed because it's just too janky, the Ripley does just fine. But if you want to go a little faster, push the limits a little bit harder, that Ripmo gives you that confidence and that edge to just push a little harder on the bike, a little bit more stable, a little bit more confidence inspiring, stays connected to the ground just a little bit more than the Ripley. So who's the Ripmo for then? That's the big question. Because you can definitely, with this tire setup that I've described, you can go pedal 25 miles, 3-4 hours on the Ripmo, no problem. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, I spent 4 hours on the Ripmo and did 28 miles in one ride down in St. George on some pretty technical trails, and it was just fine. In fact, I thought it was great. So what would have I gotten on that same ride had I taken the Ripley? Well, it would have been a little sportier feeling, for sure, a little more poppy and playful through all the different bits of terrain. It wouldn't have been quite as stable when you're just going mock chicken down some really gnarly high-speed descents. You have to, grab a little bit more brake here and there on the Ripley. And so, you really have to determine. This is what I usually tell people in the Instagram messages and in the comments below the videos. I usually tell them when they ask me which bike to get, it really comes down to a couple things. Number one, how fast do you want to go downhill? If you want to go really fast, more travel and a little bit longer, more stable bike makes a big difference. Number two is be honest with yourself and ask, what are my trails that I ride most of the time? What are they really like? Are they really straight uphill and then a massive descent, or is it more undulating, not that much high-speed descents? If they're long high-speed descents, then you can build a case for picking up the Ripmo. But like I said, 95% of the rides I do, the Ripley is the right bike for me. Man, on these lower trails, I'm back on the Ripley now. These lower trails, this Ripley just destroys them. One thing this does have in common with the Ripmo though is it just boosts off everything. The way the suspension is set up on these bikes, I'm riding it with 11 millimeters of sag, which is right at 25% as I recall. And man, it just has so much explosiveness out of these turns and off all these little jumps and everything. Super, super playful. Nice, Tyler. So, and that's one last thing I want to talk about. Both these bikes are outfitted and kitted almost the exact same with XTR full group sets, carbon wheels, and the same tires for most of the testing that I did here. The weight came in about 3 pounds lighter, all things being equal with tires and everything. Almost 3 pounds lighter, 2.5 to 3 pounds lighter on the Ripley. So I was 28 pounds, 2 ounces on the Ripmo, and I was just at about 25 pounds, a little over that, 25.5 pounds on the Ripley. And it makes a difference. It gives that Ripley that sportier, snappier, just quick feeling feel to it. The other thing that you noticed right away between these two bikes was the brakes. They both have XTR brakes, but the Ripley has a 2-piston brake, where the Ripmo, it's got a 4-piston brake, and it makes a huge difference. I'm only 5'8" and 140 pounds, and I noticed a big difference when I grab onto those 4-piston XTR brakes. They just really stop you, and a little bit bigger rotor also on the Ripmo. So what would I choose? For me, and for probably 90% of the people I see out there riding, I would choose the V4 Ripley, the current Ripley. If you want to get more aggressive with it and you're really, really struggling between should I get a Ripmo or a Ripley, if you really feel like you don't need all the travel that comes on that Ripmo, then just get the Ripley. A lot of people and people at Ibis ride that with a 140 millimeter fork. So it'll raise the bottom bracket just a smidge. It'll make the front end just a little taller, the seat tube just a little slacker, and the head angle a little slacker. And I think that that would be a pretty rad compromise. In fact, that's what I'm planning to do with my bike. I'm going to bump the fork up to 140. I haven't yet tried it yet. For the comparisons, I rode them both stock for stock. And I'm going to bump the travel to 140 and see where that gets me. I've done some 4 and 5 foot drops on this bike, and it handles it just fine. I've done some big 15, 20 foot jumps on this bike. Again, just fine. This is where tires, honestly, guys, makes a really big difference. If you have a higher traction, higher protection tire on there, it can make the bike feel more stable, a little stiffer with those stiffer sidewalls, and it makes a big difference. Now, for you guys who are saying, man, I really don't know between the Ripley and the Ripmo, but you're thinking, yeah, my trails are a little bit more gnarly and my speed is a little bit higher. I'm a little bit higher speed rider than the average Joe. Well, then you can make a case for this bike, definitely. The Ripmo can handle almost any situation. I've done lift service up at Deer Valley, Utah, riding the lift service, the ski resort there with some really gnarly trails up there. It handles everything beautifully and gives you so much confidence. I can't think of a bike, a trail bike, that gives me more confidence than the Ripmo. It's incredible. It doesn't climb quite as well as the Ripley. It's close, but you know that 4-hour ride I told you about? I rode down to St. George on this bike, 28 miles, 4 hours. If I had taken the Ripley on that same ride, I would have felt a little fresher at the end of my ride. Not quite as worn out, you know? The Ripmo still climbs exceptionally well, especially for the category of kind of that mid to long travel 29er. It's truly one of the best in the category. The great thing about the decision that you're making between the Ripley and the Ripmo is they're both excellent bikes. Just figure out, where do I spend the most time? What trail systems do I spend the most time? Is 95% of my time hammering the downhill, and is that most important to me? Because the Ripley can still do a great job descending at high speeds. Or is 95% of my time kind of on more mellow trails? Going fast, I want to hammer and feel like a real sporty climbing feel. You're going to get that from the Ripley. It's incredible. The thing's a rocket ship. It's unbelievable for a trail bike what that Ripley can do. So I hope this was helpful while you make your decision. Feel free to put any questions in the comment section down below and I'll answer them. Thanks for sticking around. If you've stuck around this long, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. And if you have any other video ideas that you want me to put together, leave it in the description down below and I'll see if I can't get that going for you. My choice is the Ripley. I love the bike. It gives me everything I need for the downhill. I don't own one bike at a time. I usually own 2 bikes at a time. And so I usually own the Ripley and then a big bike also. But this year, honestly, I just sold my Ibis HD5 and I think I might try just doing one bike this year. I don't know. We'll see. I got to take the Ripmo back to Salt Cycles, so probably no more videos with the Ripmo. It was great riding that bike for a couple weeks and it's just such a fun bike. It plows. It's really a great bike. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.